Today we have Jennie Bellinger with us, and I would like to discuss something very interesting. I would love to introduce her to our community. I would love to learn more about your story, Jennie. And through your story, I would like you to introduce yourself. How did you get started in podcasting? Why podcasting? And then we start to dig a little bit deeper about the service that you provide when it comes to podcasting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jennie Bellinger. I am a direct sales and network marketing coach. And I started in the industry, obviously having my own direct sales business. I was in the industry for about 7 years and was really successful with it. And started having people asking me, how did I do it? And they wanted me to work with them. And so I ended up getting certified as a professional coach in 2017. And around the same time, just actually a few months later, hired my first business coach. And sorry, no, my second one. I had one when I was in direct sales, and then the one that I hired when I started my coaching business. She invited me to go to an event called the New Media Summit. And it was all about podcasting and YouTube channels. And I was like, I don't know why you're taking me to this. I don't have time for that. That's for people who already have a business, like who already, I got to get clients. I don't have time to start a podcast. What are you talking about? And she said, no, just come be on podcasts, be a guest on shows. And I was like, oh, that's not a bad idea. Okay, I'll do that. So I started getting on podcasts because what I do is fairly unique in the business coaching world. There's probably fewer than 100 other people who do what I do. And of course, they don't do it the way that I do it. But I started noticing that from being on other people's podcasts, that I was starting to get guests and not necessarily from their audience. Interestingly, I was getting them from my own because I was sharing these episodes that I was on and I was putting them out on social media and sending them by email to people and saying, hey, would you go listen to this and let me know how I did? And because people started listening, going, oh, that's what you do? Oh, can we have a conversation? I want to know more about that.
But through other people's show, you were portraying, you were setting yourself as an authority even within your network of influence.
Yeah. Yeah. It all started with my own network where those clients started coming from. And so I thought, that's really interesting. I wonder what would happen if. And so I started talking to some podcast coaches, settled on working with one in particular because he had a history of helping people launch podcasts and helping them monetize very early in their podcast career. And so I did what he told me to do because that's what I do when I hire a coach. I hire them because they know more than I do. So I do what they ask me to. Sometimes I need to know why, but he was very good at explaining why I was doing the different things that I was doing that would lead to monetization. And sure enough, I started making money on my podcast before it even officially was approved by Apple. So
It's
I
really
remember
amazing.
I remember sending an email to my coach going, "Hey, so I already have some money coming into my bank account." And he was like, "What? You haven't even launched yet." And I said, "I know, but I did what you told me to do." And I was getting clients and getting sponsorships with an audience of exactly zero. And
Yep.
so that's that tends to get people's attention.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Because a lot of people, when they think about podcasts, the first thing is you already mentioned that you want to leverage other people's audience. But that was
Mhm.
really interesting that even the fact that you were, yes, okay, you were leveraging other people's audience by going on podcast and talking about what you do, your expertise, so on and so forth. So you were broadening your network. You were getting people to tune in and say, who's Jennie? Yeah, this is interesting. Let me reach out to her. But not only that, you were solidifying your base in the sense of you're reaching out to your network and say, hey, go check this out. I got interviewed by this person. So not only you sending them new listeners to that particular podcast, but you're also cementing your position and say, hey, this is what I do and they will get to know you more through the interviews. That's really cool. And even you mentioned that most people who are thinking about starting their own podcast or doing interviews and stuff like that, they say, okay, most probably I have to do that later on when I have an audience. I would
Yes.
love that if you can dig deeper. When should people start thinking about podcasting, and what are the benefits that they are going to get, and why they should start early?
Yeah. I think that the monetization piece is exactly what holds people back from monetizing early on is because they do, like you said, think they have to wait until they have an audience to monetize. And that's not true. So I monetized in two ways before Apple even approved me as a live podcast. And one of the ways that I monetized was really simple. I asked people to sponsor their episode. I said, podcasting is not free. I'm not saying that you have to completely pay for the entire thing, but if you would sponsor your episode, that would be helpful. And by the way, with you being an early episode, by sponsoring your episode, because some of the wording that I used that actually my podcast coach didn't teach me to do, I just thought that it would be beneficial and I was right, which is to say, if you sponsor your episode, I won't put ads on it. I didn't even have a podcast. Like, what ads were going to go on it? But people said, "Oh yeah, I don't
But
want ads on my show."
yeah, but later on, when your podcast is going to pick up and you start getting more listeners, you might as well put ads on. Yeah, that's
Right,
a
going
very,
back to the beginning.
yeah.
So I basically got people who started, and I wasn't charging a lot for sponsorship of episodes because for the most part, all I was paying for at the time was my Zoom account. I had a free host for my podcast at the time. Now my host is $15 plus my cost of $15 a month for Zoom. So it really cost me like $30, except now I also have a podcast promotional team, but that cost is a little more than that.
Yeah, but
So
that builds up later.
my sponsorships have increased in value over time in the 4 years since I started, because my podcast launched in June of 2019. So literally 4 years from when we're recording this. And so those sponsorships really helped some of the money start rolling in. And it got me and it got my guests used to the idea of paying a little bit to be a part of this podcast, like just that part. The other way that I monetized my podcast, my show, was I made sure that the people that I had in the guest seat, at least some of them, were ideal potential clients.
This is smart. Listen to
Right?
this.
Oh my gosh, because I want whoever's listening to this right now or watching this right now, think back anytime you reach out on LinkedIn, anytime you reach out on social media or via email to somebody who's an ideal potential client, and you're saying, "Hey, it looks like you're really doing well in your business. Can we have a conversation?" And you're lucky if they even respond to you. But when you have a podcast and you reach out to an ideal potential client and you say, "Hey, it looks like you're doing really well in your business. Would you like to share your story on my show? Here's a little bit about my podcast." People want to be on a show. They want to promote themselves. It's this wonderful win-win situation because I get to talk to somebody who maybe might want to hire me. I get content for my audience, and the guest gets content for them to share on their social media about themselves. They get a win out of it too. So even if they don't become my client, we both still win. And I think all of my guests sense that by being on my show, we both get a win. It's a positive thing. And so going through that conversation with them then allows them to connect with me and they go, "Oh, she's cool. I wonder what she does."
It's true. It's a conversation starter, and it's also a relationship builder, right? You build a relationship with someone. Maybe they don't convert me. Maybe they don't need your service right now. Maybe in the future, or maybe they know someone they can refer you, and you
Exactly.
will be able to get clients in one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that has happened in all of the things you just described have happened in the course of my 4 years of podcasting. I've had people who decided they didn't need me, but someone in their downline did. I've had people say, I don't need your services, but my upline would probably hire you to come train our team on something. And so their uplines have hired me to do some team trainings for them. I've had some people who didn't hire me at all, but they went and promoted my podcast with large groups of people who also are my potential ideal client. And so I got in front of a larger audience of more of my people because they were telling everybody, hey, I'm on this podcast. Here, go listen to it. And so I'll randomly get 500 or 1,000 downloads because they go share in a group of 2,000, 10,000 potential ideal clients of mine. So it really is that really great win-win. The downloads are a little bit of a vanity metric, but I use them to let other people know how big my audience is. In 4 years, I've achieved over 50,000 downloads.
That's very
Pretty
good.
I'll take that. Podcast statistics show that most people like maybe get 25 downloads per episode. I'm getting 25 downloads of an episode in the first 2 or 3 days that it's out. Sometimes it's first day that it's out, I've already got 25 downloads of an episode. The fact that I'm already breaking statistics within the first week of an episode being launched lets me know that, okay, I've got a pretty decent sized audience. People are listening. And what's crazy is I'm still not even doing all the things that could grow my audience even bigger. I'm just doing some of the things. So there's still more to do.
Yeah. So when you look back in the 4 years, the fact that you said, okay, you're monetizing podcasts directly, right? By sponsoring episodes. Not only that, you're very smart the way how you line up your guests, you line them up strategically to build a relationship and also to, potentially also land clients. It's very smart. So if I had to ask you like a rough figure, how much did podcasting contribute to your business? Like a percentage, let's say just a rough ballpark. Or how many contacts do you think it got you? Because this is something that someone who's tuning in, someone who's listening or watching would say, should I do it? Should I not do it? Am I a good person to do a podcast? Do I have the time? But when they get to see the benefits of actually starting conversation, building relationship, getting business directly or indirectly, because there would be some people who say, I'm not interested in monetizing podcasts, so I'm not interested in that. But I would take as many good relationships as possible through podcasting. I think that's, at least to me, that's the biggest and the most impactful way of podcasting and doing these interviews.
Oh, yeah. So to answer the initial question, I would say, and I'm just guesstimating because I obviously don't have all my numbers like right here in front of me. I would say it's probably been 20 to 25% of my total revenue the last 4 years between getting new clients. So that's recurring coaching revenue or sometimes large upfront payments because they pay me for the full 6 months or a year at a time. And then also those sponsorships have increased in value. I have developed an advertisement program as well now. So I make money through advertisements. And then I also make money through affiliation. So bringing additional dollars in from other coaches, authors, and speakers that have paid programs that could be considered competitors of mine and sometimes are not competitors of mine because they offer a totally different service. For example, it could be Early Parrot has an affiliate program. I have you on my show. Someone goes and signs up for Early Parrot and oh, look, boom, Jennie has a little extra money in her PayPal account. It's great. And all I did was have a conversation with my friend Gaetano. It's great.
Yeah, and getting paid for that.
And I'm getting paid for it.
And not only that, you're also providing a service because it might be someone who tune in and say, what is this? What's referral marketing? Yeah, I didn't know that there's a service. Yeah, I can use this platform. Yeah, the fact that Jennie is referring me and to try it out. Yeah, why not? Let's try it out. Immediately, you started a conversation with someone just by providing further information. So it's a win. I think it's a three-way win. So definitely
yeah. And I think that's the great thing. I think that's the great thing about podcasting is it really does provide. Sometimes I'll see reviews of other podcasters and somebody will say they're promoting their stuff too much. And I'm like, they got to pay for their podcast somehow. You think this is free?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Creating content, it's definitely not free. It takes time. takes time to edit it, whatever, and also promote it. Like big chunk is promoting and building an audience. That's definitely. And that would be my next question. Today, podcasting is incredibly competitive. Like every area of the business is getting more and more competitive. Why? Because a lot of people, they are realizing that podcasting is a good way how to build a business, how to start conversation, all the benefits that we just mentioned. How if you're talking to someone who's still starting out and they will put this question, say, hey, it's very competitive, where should I start? Do you think they are way too late to jump on the train? Do you think
Not at
that
all.
this competition thing is a good thing, or is it a bad thing? Is it good for the big guys or for this and bad for the small guys?
No, not at all. Every podcast out there, there's an audience for them. And what's great about podcasting is you get to be who you truly and really authentically are, and your audience will find you, especially if you continue to be consistent and persistent in your production of episodes, getting them out there very regularly. Because then, when your audience knows what to expect, when you tell them, hey, this is going to be a weekly podcast, and then you put out a weekly podcast, sometimes my episodes are 7 or 8 minutes long, sometimes they're 44 minutes long, but there's always an episode, at least since March of 2020. I've only missed 2 weeks where I allowed myself to go on vacation. And frankly, I don't think my audience missed me those 2 weeks. They probably were like, oh, I wonder what's going on. And they probably went and listened to a classic episode or something.
Yeah.
But I've really only, since March of 2020, been very consistent and persistent in getting good content out there. And I am fully open and honest with my audience. I don't hold anything back. I only put out great content with people who I really believe in. So if I have an episode, which is very rare, but if I have an episode with somebody who I'm like, that didn't vibe with me, every once in a while I'll send the message to that particular guest and just let them know, hey, that we've decided to go in a different direction, so we're not going to put your episode out there. Luckily, it's never been somebody who sponsored their episode, so whew, very relieved for that. But for somebody who's thinking about doing it, there's an audience of people out there who are waiting for you. They want to hear from you. They just don't know you exist. And I heard that from Steve Olsher when I went to the New Media Summit. And that really resonates with me still to this day, obviously, because I'm still quoting him. There are people out there who are literally praying for you. They just don't know you exist, and they need you. They need your services. And podcasting is a way to let people know that you're out there, and certainly to build a lot of relationships with referral partners, with potential clients. Podcasting is just a really great way to do that, and it really gets your foot in the door. And what I have found podcasting that it's done for me, in addition to the monetization piece, is it has opened doors that I didn't even know existed. There were doors that I was knocking on for a long time, like all of those ideal client doors that I was knocking on, trying to get them to talk to me. Knock, knock, nothing. Nobody would answer. Suddenly you have a podcast, they'll answer the door. But what's interesting is when you have a podcast, there are doors that magically show up and open. For example, I've gotten to talk to the CEOs of companies. These are the people who make the decisions about who's going to walk on stage and talk to 2,000, 10,000, 30,000 of their people. And now I get to go be on their podcast. They get to be on mine. They now know that I exist as a potential somebody who can go train their people. It has opened doors to incredible networkers. It has opened doors for me to get to talk to people that I never in a million years thought I was ever going to get to talk to. Jack Canfield. So anybody who knows who Jack Canfield is, he's like my favorite. And I reached out and invited him to be on my show, and he said yes. And it was the greatest conversation.
It's like a side door, right? It's like a shortcut to a very good relationship building.
Oh, yeah. It's absolutely fantastic.
Because if you reach out to someone and say, hey, can you promote me to your list, to your 30,000 email list? I think everyone knows what's going to happen. It's going to be complete radio silence, or they will send you somewhere. But
Right.
if you put value upfront and say, hey, I have a small audience, but still I would like to feature you because I believe in you. I believe in your audience, one of your followers. Why not? Yeah, why
Yeah.
not? Why not? Let's give it a shot. So definitely, I think I'd like to call it like a side door, a way how to build a relationship in a very different way, very authentic way. And it's also intimate in this sense. It's one-to-one. You get to ask your questions. Sometimes between us, sometimes I use it in order to gain and get to ask those questions that I think that would be a very good question. If I was a guest on that podcast, I would ask that particular question, and you get to ask those questions. So there's also value
Right.
there.
Oh, I get so much value from talking to a lot of my guests. It feels sometimes I'm doing the podcast for my benefit, and then everybody else also happens to benefit because they get to listen in later. Because
Exactly.
I get to ask those questions. It's wait, so how did you do that with your business? And then I'm thinking in the background, okay, now how can I do that in mine? All right.
And that I think you're representing your audience because that's what it is.
Right.
You're representing your audience because your audience align with you. They are most
Mhm.
probably in the same business, and you represent them, and you get to ask the questions on their behalf. So that's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, no. And I want to point out because one of the things you brought up was somebody having a small audience. Keep in mind, sometimes that small audience, it may take a while to grow, but here's what's awesome that as people find your podcast, as you get better about promoting it, or when you hire a promotional company. So I hired a company called Premier Podcast Promotions to promote my podcast because I recognized that I was doing a great job of getting content out loaded, getting it out there, but I wasn't promoting it. I wasn't promoting my guests. So I fired myself because I was not doing a good job and I hired somebody else to do it. But as people find a podcast, they very much what we do with Netflix and Hulu have trained us very well
They
so that
binge.
when we find a show, we go back to the beginning and we binge. We binge watch on Netflix and Hulu. On YouTube, we go back to the beginning. We find the playlist of all the video podcasts. If we're listening to a podcast, an audio podcast, we go back to the very beginning. So all of my first podcast episodes, my first 100 podcast episodes have a ton of downloads because people realize that they go back to the beginning. They want to hear all the information and listen to the transformation of me and my guests as they happened.
Yeah, yeah. They binge. They increase the download. They make it further popular. They
Yeah.
they quickly get to know you and get to know your interest. They most probably they're gonna reach out. Yeah, they're
Oh,
gonna stay
yeah.
your network. Yeah, definitely,
And it's
definitely.
and I would encourage anybody who's thinking about podcasting. There is one mistake that I made in my 4 years of podcasting, which was I trained my audience very early on not to reach out to me. I did not offer the opportunity for them to connect with me as early as they could have. I would encourage people to find ways to have their audience connect with them sooner in the podcasting journey because keep in mind to go from high to buy and buy, if someone's going to become your client from your audience, they need to know that there's a way to get a hold of you and have a reason to reach out. So whether it's you are offering some sort of lead magnet that gets them into your email list, whether it's a webinar of content that you're going to provide, whether it's a complimentary coaching session of some sort, get it out there. If you create a group on one of your social media platforms where just your listeners can come in, that's what I finally did. It took me 3 years before I created that group, and I wish I would have done it a lot sooner because now people hear about it on the show and I'm regularly getting people requesting to come be a part of this community now in on Facebook. And so I'm able to put out more content there for those listeners and say, hey, if you're part of my badass crew, because my podcast is called Badass Direct Sales Mastery, if you're part of my badass crew, come on, and you're on Facebook, go find the Badass Direct Sales Moms group. That's
Yeah.
that's where we are. That's where we're hanging out in person. So if you want more from me, if you don't want to have to wait until every Monday, come hang out with us on Facebook. And they do.
Yes, it's because that's the natural next step, right? This I get to discuss it with a lot of podcast hosts when they are working with us in the referral space, is that a lot of podcasts, as you said, they do this mistake that they are creating amazing content. They are putting it on the different hosts and they are promoting it, but they are not capturing the interest in one way or another. So it can be you creating a community around your podcast. So they are expecting their audience to subscribe to their podcast and then tune in every Monday or wherever you put out your new episodes. And that's just it. It's like that relationship there. No, you want to translate that relationship into a community, especially and ideally into an email list, because that's how money will flow in. That is how eventually you solidify your relationship that you have built and you turn a listener, like a cold listener, into someone who's tuning in every whenever you put out a new episode, and also they get to also consume content that you're sending out via email or whatever in your Facebook community, or both, ideally both. The idea is to start also a conversation there. And that is what I feel a lot of podcasts hosts they are missing. They just, for instance, direct you to their podcast where it's hosted and they say, okay, this is where go and check it out. And they are not capturing the interest. They are not capturing the lead.
Exactly. And again, one of the other mistakes that I've made, or one of the things that I have waited a little too long on, is setting up an email notification system for when my podcast goes live. Because my own experience, and I was basing it off of me, I was like, I don't like it when I get put on people's email list announcing when their podcast is live. That's why I have notifications on my phone. I will follow your podcast on my phone. And if I want to listen to an episode, I'll listen. But I don't want you clogging up my email box, right? That was the thought that was going on in my head. So I never set that up for other people. And I actually had a mastermind that I brought together that had a few of my clients, a few of my past clients, and some potential ideal clients who could come in. And in that mastermind, I said, I'd like more listeners. I want more downloads for my podcast because I want the message to get out there more. I'd like more opportunity to bring more people into my world to know I exist, that I can help them. And one of the gals actually asked me if I had set up an email thing. And I was like, no, because no, those bug me. And she goes, no, that's how I get notified of all the other shows that I listen to that aren't yours. And I went, oh.
Yeah, everything points back to the old email system. Everything points,
Right.
whatever you do, like even if you put it, if you got to follow people also on YouTube, most of them, they are putting out amazing content. And then if you notice, and you notice very well, they change their description, their YouTube description quite often, depending what they are promoting. So if they have an upcoming event, they will add at the top, say, hey, by the way, we have this event if you want to learn more. And obviously the content in the YouTube video has to be related. Say, hey, by the way, if you're checking us out, we have this upcoming event. You can go and you click here. Then if that event is over and they have another event, which happens to be also related to the video content, they change the way where people, they can, as you said, reach out to them and somehow get into their ecosystem. Because without capturing the interest, it might be you really like the show, it might be you subscribe to the YouTube channel or to the podcast or whatever, but the relationship stays there. I know Jennie Bellinger, she's a podcast host, and that's it. I know that she does something with podcasting, but if I receive an email saying, yeah, we have this, we're doing this experiment, here's a case study, here this, that continues to staying at the top of people's mind. It's really important.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, there were some mistakes. I've put out a lot of great content and haven't always put out the information that, hey, by the way, I'm also available for you as the listener to reach out and have a conversation with. If have connected with me, if you love listening to me and you think that I could be of use to help you, reach out. I had not been doing that. And I've probably done 3 episodes this year now where I've apologized to my audience, basically saying, I've let you down. I have not promoted myself the way I should. And some of you are not moving forward as quickly as you could have been if you had known that I was an option for you. And so basically, created an episode of content that started with an apology, and then here's some content, here's how I can help you, here's what I've done for my clients. Now, if that's attractive to you, reach out to me. Go to this website and set up a time to talk. Let's have a conversation. And I've had people actually book time on my calendar from those.
Because when you put the ask, people will say, yeah, why not? What do I have to lose? I can only gain out of this. I've been following this person on the podcast for a very long time, and I want to learn more whether it's a fit for me at least.
Exactly. And so it's been interesting seeing who responds to those and who still is obviously sitting back in the shadows and just continuing to listen to the episodes because they're not ready yet.
Yeah.
They're not there yet. If they were ready, they would do the reach out, but they didn't yet.
But I think that's a positive thing. In my opinion, it's a positive thing because those who are not yet ready, I don't want them to waste their time and your time or anyone's time to reach out and say, yeah, just to conclude that they are not ready. They already know that they are not yet there in order to benefit from the services that you get to
absolutely provide. As we call them here in the US, the tire kickers, the people who go to the car lot and they just want to test drive a car, but they're not ready to actually buy a car yet. Yeah, no, we don't want those. Not yet. I want somebody when they're ready, when they realize that they are hitting that point in their direct sales and network marketing business, that they realize that I'm stuck. What I've done to get me to where I am now is not working to get me to the next level. And I don't know what I don't know. And I've tried everything I can think of. I need Jennie.
Yeah.
I need to have a conversation with Jennie. And that's when magic happens, because then they're ready. They're really coachable. I haven't had to talk them into anything. They realize it and they show up, they follow the process, and then they get results. It's really amazing how that works.
So in this conversation, because I need to wrap this up.
Sure.
I would like you to say exactly how you can help someone who's still starting out and want to get direction. So they don't want to waste any time. They don't want to go through the same mistakes that any podcast host would do. Those people who will just start podcasting as a hobby, because if you don't have a strategy, if you don't have direction, if you don't have the knowledge, it's more than a hobby rather than a business. Can you help those people? How can you help them exactly? And those who have been doing podcasting and they might need some direction, some tweaks in their strategy, how can you help them? Where they can reach out to you?
Yeah, so I do a couple of things. So I have a complimentary podcast audit. So if somebody is interested in having a conversation and I can learn a little bit more about their podcast, how they're currently monetizing or not, what their audience looks like, I just have a basic conversation and then I let them know, here's how I think you could monetize, and you could literally start doing this type of monetization tomorrow. Like they could implement in 24 hours if they know what they're doing in what I'm talking about, depending on the type of monetization that's going to work for them. So I do have a podcast audit. And then for people who are really ready to take their podcast to the next level, I do podcast consultations or coaching sessions that are half an hour to an hour at a time. They cost anywhere from $60 to $97 US per session, depending on what they're doing. So if they can monetize fairly quickly, those consultations pay for themselves very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. It's very affordable.
Oh, super affordable. And the reason is because right now, fewer than 1% of podcasters make money on their show at all.
Yep.
So I want people to know how they can specifically monetize their podcast. So I'll do the audit complimentary. And then after that, they can hire me.
Yeah. We're going to put all the details in the description of the video and even in the email that we send out to our list. We're going to add further information about your story, about you, where they can reach you, different services that you provide. so that we give you full exposure, because I really believe, and I honestly believe, and that's why I got you to sit down with me in order to get
Yeah.
this podcasting demystified. Because when you spoke to me about your strategy, how you monetize, I think it's very innovative. I think it can help a lot of people to get that wheel cranking. And once you start getting momentum, as you described in your story, in the beginning, everything is difficult. You have not plenty of time. You're looking for clients, but you don't have enough money in order to be able to promote the podcast, and you don't have an audience. So you have a lot of unknowns. You have to put in a lot of work. So if you can start seeing money, it can help you to ramp up your team. It can help you also to motivate you. You need money to live, and you can't wait forever in order to make your first couple of thousands. So the fact that you start seeing some money in, first of all, it can help you to amplify your message, get you to promote your podcast, get growth going. And then once you start seeing growth, everything is going to be fine, because you will be able to land in more sponsorship, you'll be able to monetize it, you'll be able to get more money through affiliate. Then everything is going to be simple. But I think you have a very good strategy in order to get people going, those people who are stuck, like in the early stages, or they have been stuck there for a couple of years. Then definitely you can get them going with a couple of tips from you who have been in the trenches for over 4 years now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny because to go from the person who was almost dragged to the New Media Summit in 2017 to now being somebody who has been doing this for 4 years and has made a lot of money through podcasting and because of podcasting. And it's also a fantastic credibility builder as you build and grow, right? Being willing to toot your own horn with the accomplishments of your podcast, because no one else is going to do it. No one else has access to the information. Although once you get big enough, every once in a while you have a friend. So I had somebody who just reached out to me, oh gosh, back in March of this year, so about 3 months ago. And she sent me a message saying that my podcast was the #1 network marketing podcast of all time on Good Pods. And I was like, wait, what? And she had gone and looked to see what the top network marketing podcasts were, and mine was at #1 for all time. It was the only one on the list. And I was like, oh, so more people are listening to my show than any other network marketing podcast on all of Good Pods. All right, cool. I'll take it.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
And that's going to get you motivated, right? To create more content,
oh
because
yeah,
the fact that you have people, there's responsibility to provide content. As you said, even when you get an episode that doesn't really rhymes, it's your rhythm. Okay, let's just delete it. You want to be authentic to your audience. That's responsibility.
yeah, exactly. So it's a fantastic way to really build your business. And at this point, I can't imagine doing my business without podcasting, because it really does, it builds all areas of my business. It builds me as a human being, because again, I get to talk to these amazing guests who share their expertise and knowledge with me at no charge to me. And in fact, some of them pay me to be on the show. It builds relationship with referral partners. It builds my credibility in the industry, because now I've got big names who are saying, "Oh, I should be on your show. I've had lots of people say that I should be on your show." And I'm like, "Really? Okay." So, it's interesting when people begin to pay attention to what's going on your show, and it helps build everything, right? And I feel like my business now is on the tipping point. And I've been feeling it for a few months now that, oh, this is about to hit, and it's about to hit like big. And I've been successful, but it's that I think this is about to get really big moment.
Yeah, every
So,
so often you get that spike in business. Yeah. You have been waiting for it, building up actually, not waiting. You have been
right.
working and building up towards it, towards that spike.
Exactly.
And when it happens,
I'm
it
going to be a
fills you with
4 year
joy.
over. I know. Yeah. It's that whole thing of I'm a 4 year overnight sensation. Yes. I've put a lot of work and effort into this. And the nice thing is it's really starting to come to fruition. And it's not just from the podcast, but it's certainly, I don't believe it would have happened as quickly without the podcast for sure.
Yeah.
So
I think today we've provided with a lot of, we touched upon a lot of different valuable things and valuable aspects of podcasting, building relationship. There's a ton of different values. And you saying that in 4 years, 20% of your business, you attributed towards podcasting and opening doors, getting the opportunity to speak different people. I think it's enough. It's plenty of benefits for those who are sitting on the fence to just jump right now off the fence and start doing something about it. If you want results, you have to start somewhere. Doesn't mean that you're going to start podcasting today. You're going to start getting the benefits like someone who has been doing it consistently. And this is a very important word that I really like, consistency, because it's key to everything that you do in life. Has been doing it for 4 years. But if you start today, at least in 2027, when we're watching this in 4 years' time, you will be able to say, I'm really glad that I watched this episode and I got started, because now I'm reaping the benefits of having my own show. Or maybe even before, who knows?
yeah, and it's all dependent on, you get out of it what you put into it. So just knowing that you're putting the effort, time, and energy into it for the right reasons, not just for the money, but because it's helping to create more good in the world. That's what I love about my show, is it's really out there making everybody's lives better. And that's my goal.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to wrap this up. I would like to thank you for your time, for your insights. As I said, we're going to put links so that anyone who's tuning in, they can reach out to you. I think you should. If you're considering podcasts, if you're stuck, or if you need some tips, or if you need to validate some ideas, you say, yeah, I think of this. You should reach out to Jennie. She can definitely provide you with a lot of value in a fun way.
Yeah, everything I do is fun.
Yeah, you're always smiling person. So definitely it would be a fun session, fun learning session. So definitely reach out to Jennie. Thanks for your time, Jennie.
Thank you, Gaetano.